Free bagels? I'm in. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2022 sci-fi action disaster film, Moonfall. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Moonfall stars Patrick Wilson, Halle Berry, and John Bradley, and was directed by Roland Emmerich. It tells the story of washed-up ex-astronaut Brian Harper, played by Patrick Wilson, as he and his colleagues attempt to save the Earth after the moon mysteriously falls out of orbit. When you hear that there's a new Roland Emmerich film hitting theaters, you already know what you're in for. Some directors just have a type for their movies, and with that type comes expectations that are rarely left unmet. In the case of Emmerich, we expect big, dumb, sci-fi action disaster movies. And that's what he delivers time and time again. Some may be a bit bigger than others, some may be a bit more dumb, but he's found a formula that works. Maybe not for garnering critical acclaim, but for creating ridiculous popcorn entertainment. This formula has admittedly resulted in Emmerich making variants of the same basic movie for the last 25 years, but it also means that his movies will always deliver the same dumb entertainment that we expect and want from them. As with most of his disaster films, the general concept here is a simple one. The moon is out of orbit, nobody knows why, and unless somebody does something fast, the world is gonna be destroyed. Sounds a bit familiar, right? The moon thing's new, but if you swap that out for an asteroid, volcano, or aliens, it's a plot you've seen dozens of times before, including in several other Emmerich films. Again, Moonfall isn't gonna win any awards for originality, but in a subgenre built on pure entertainment, getting exactly what you expect isn't really a bad thing. And for the most part, this film follows Emmerich's disaster movie playbook to a T. The Earth in danger, an unknown threat, a race against the clock, the hero scientist, goofy comic relief character, plenty of family drama, the person nobody believes actually being the key, and of course, lots of CG destruction. Despite having seen much of it in half a dozen of his other films, some of Emmerich's playbook really works here. The general Earth in danger premise may be familiar, but this is a global disaster movie after all. And the threat here, and the whole moon thing, is kind of interesting, even if it is exceptionally dumb. Our leads here are no Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum, but I actually kind of liked at least the astronaut characters. The character development frustratingly stalls out, but Patrick Wilson and Halle Berry both seem to be having a good time in their roles in this ridiculous movie, and that kind of enjoyment rubs off on the audience. Other elements of Emmerich's playbook were a bit more hit or miss this time around. The character of Casey, who's our main source of comedy in the film, is a perfect example of this. For me at least, he starts off a little rough. One of those abrasive, try-hard comedic characters. You know, the type of character that's clearly written to be this hilarious person, but is mostly unfunny and is kind of irritating in a cringy way. So I was expecting this to be a long movie with him, but surprisingly, he ended up not being that bad. I wouldn't go as far as to say that he grew on me, but he had some funny moments and was more of a redeeming character than I expected. Of course, we can't talk about a disaster movie without talking about the disaster part of it. Unfortunately, this falls into that same hit or miss category I was just talking about. It's got plenty of disaster destruction scenes, but something about them just feels hollow. The CGI looks fine, but it imparts this almost glossiness that takes away from the impact of the destruction. It's been a while since we saw practical effects and miniatures in an Emmerich film, but I can't help but feel like Moonfall could have benefited from some. However, CG does allow for some creative gravity-related sequences that are oh so dumb, but incredibly entertaining. So we've talked about the things in Emmerich's playbook that worked, and sort of worked here, but what about the stuff that didn't work? There are a few things that you'd probably expect to fall into this category. The terrible dialogue, extremely shallow characters, and of course more plot holes than you can count. And this film's got all of that for sure. But by far, its weakest aspect is its attempt at emotion. Ever since the surprisingly heartfelt character moments in Independence Day, Emmerich has unsuccessfully been trying to recapture that sweet family charm in his disaster flicks. And this movie sees yet another attempt. We've got divorces, step-parents, estranged families, random foreign exchange students, and this pointless son subplot. All of the family stuff here is just so unnecessary. It doesn't elicit any emotion other than boredom, and the constant cutting back to these characters just tediously drags the movie out. With all of these classic Emmerich disaster movie elements, it would be easy to dismiss this movie as just more of the same. And for about 2/3 of this movie, it is just more of the same, for better or worse. But the final act is unexpected. I'm not going to say what happens, but it's going to be divisive among audiences. You're either going to buy into it and just go with it, or the movie is going to completely lose you at this point. And I don't know if there's a way to predict which category you're going to be in. You've just got to watch it and find out. As expected, Moonfall is a ridiculous yet entertaining popcorn disaster movie. It's not good, but it's also not bad. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just okay. It's pretty standard Roland Emmerich disaster movie fare. It hits every single note that you'd expect one of his films to hit, and then throws in a new weird little solo in the third act. If you're looking for originality, this movie is not going to be for you. If you're looking for a high-concept sci-fi film that makes you ponder the meaning of life, this probably isn't going to do it for you. But if you just want to eat some popcorn and watch a big, dumb disaster movie featuring a cat named Fuzz Aldrin, Moonfall will definitely hit the spot. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro is the concept. Now, I realize that might sound weird considering just how unoriginal the basic premise here actually is. It's just like dozens of other movies, including several of Emmerich's own films. So, how is this a pro? Well, I like disaster movies, and this delivers exactly what I want in a disaster movie. The moon falling out of orbit is an interesting take on the world-ending threat, and the direction this film goes in the third act is certainly something. But in addition to that something, it's bizarrely entertaining in that you've gotta be kidding me kind of way that makes a disaster movie so fun. On the con side, the biggest issue is definitely the family stuff. I get it. Good storytelling requires that you care about the characters, or at least have some sort of emotional stake in what's going on. So it makes sense to give your lead characters in a disaster movie families. In theory, their concern for those families will help generate empathy from the audience. And it can work. Just look at Independence Day. But it's not an easy thing to accomplish, and it certainly was not accomplished here. All the family subplots felt like they were unnecessarily drawing the focus away from the main disaster storyline, dragging things out without contributing any emotion to the story. Con number 2 isn't as big of a deal, especially since it's pretty expected in an Emmerich film, but it's the dialogue. It's pretty awful at points. The worst dialogue comes during those family moments I was just talking about, including gems like, "The moon is going to help us." There's a lot of exposition too, as well as some really cringy, eye-rolling jokes, but honestly, I can't fault it too much, because I think bad, cheesy dialogue is just part of the allure of a Roland Emmerich disaster movie. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Moonfall or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Moonfall 3 out of 5 paws. I went back and forth between 2.5 and 3 paws for a while, but finally settled on a low 3. It's basically exactly what you expect from an Emmerich movie. It's big, it's loud, it's really stupid and kinda cheesy at points, but it's undeniably entertaining. I would recommend Moonfall to people who like disaster movies, especially Roland Emmerich's specific brand of disaster movie. Fans of his films will not be disappointed, and you'll get exactly the big, dumb sci-fi disaster blockbuster you're expecting. And if you don't like Roland Emmerich movies, well, this one probably isn't going to win you over. If you liked Moonfall, I would recommend Armageddon. Surprisingly, not an Emmerich movie, but I'm sure it's one he wishes he wrote and directed. The moon's fine here, but the world has to contend with a planet-ending asteroid, and a crew of astronauts embark on a familiar mission. If you want another sci-fi disaster movie with a big tunnel, you should check out The Core. It's another cheesy movie that's not particularly good, but has a number of plot similarities and is stupidly entertaining. And if you just can't get enough of Roland Emmerich, you've gotta watch Independence Day. 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow are good, ridiculous options too, but Independence Day is really the only time he nailed both the disaster side of things and the emotional side. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Moonfall? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what do you think is the best pet name in a movie? I'm betting Fuzz Aldrin gives it a run for its money. Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe if you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.